Thank you for viewing our Events Fundraising webinar series. We're excited that you're interested in learning more about fundraising for Free to Breathe and helping each individual and family impacted by lung cancer. Before we get started on fundraising basics and fundraising basics in action, please your introduction and thank you message if you haven't done so already. As I mentioned, the two items that we're going to be talking about today are fundraising basics and fundraising basics in action. My goal here today is to just help make sure that you feel really comfortable and confident in fundraising, and by the end of this series to feel inspired into action, to get started with your fundraising or to keep going. So whether fundraising makes you feel like this, or this, or this, what I want to remind you is that the world needs you, and more specifically, this cause needs you. So thank you for taking the time to be on this fundraising journey with us, and for giving me the opportunity to talk with you about something that I find really exciting and something that I'm really passionate about, fundraising. Registering is the first step, and if you're on this webinar, chances are that you've already registered or you're very seriously considering registering. So thank you for that. What I want to impart upon you, though, is that fundraising is the next step. We could not do this event without participants, but what really keeps going is fundraising, and that's the next step that I'm really hoping to give you the confidence to either get started with or to keep going with. Fundraising dollars raised by people just like you will help us realize our vision for 2022, which is to double lung cancer survival. It's so important, the work that we're doing together, and thank you so much for being with us. I'm going to talk with you a little bit about the fundraising basics, and when I talk about the basics, I mean the basics. We're going to start at the ground level, which is the definition of fundraising. The definition of fundraising is the organized activity or an instance of soliciting money or pledges as for charitable organizations or political campaigns. I think we're all very well up to speed about political campaigns and charitable contributions, especially if you're on this call. So it's probably not really that difficult to think about the very basics of fundraising. But I want to talk a little bit about it because it's changed. The landscape of fundraising has changed, especially with the introduction of events just like this. Historically, when you think about fundraising, maybe you think about throwing money into a change jar and giving that over to a charity. Or you think of creating a lemonade stand, but in most cases, giving money to a lemonade stand. That's how some people raise money. Or just sitting and writing a check and giving it directly to an organization. And for some of us, when we think about fundraising, it's actually about dressing up and going to some black tie affair, going to some big dinner or some gala. Traditional fundraising, it really is just all about a donor giving money directly to an organization. They have a cause that they are interested in or that they support, or they have an organization in which they just always give their money to. What we're seeing is that the landscape has changed with peer-to-peer fundraising, which is what we all do. If you're listening in today, peer-to-peer fundraising is what we do, because what it is you as a participant are actually the middleman between the organization and the donor. The donors actually come into the organization because of you, and the most important part of this equation is you. You are making it possible for us to have access to and to learn more about and to interact with all of these people who come into our organization because they want to support you. And that's really changed how organizations do fundraising, and with the times that have changed with how many events are happening, and certainly with our series of what we're doing here, is this allows us to really have a lot more exposure and awareness and to impact change and fundraise so much more because you're bringing in these donors. So when you think about this definition, the organized activity or an instance of soliciting money or pledges as for charitable organizations or political campaigns, I want you to remember now, just kind of with this little history lesson here, is that you play such an important role because of what you're doing in bringing donors to our organization. So, okay, now what? You've gotten some more information about a definition of fundraising that you're pretty sure you already knew about, but now you know a little bit more about it, and you've learned about things like peer-to-peer fundraising. Well, now what? Well, we're going to talk just a little bit about fundraising basics in action. The key to fundraising is very simple. And I know for those of us who probably are just getting started with fundraising or have never done it before, it might be a little too much to hear me use words like easy or simple. But I do want to say that the key to fundraising, it is very simply, you need to ask. You need to be willing to go out and talk with your friends, your family, your coworkers, the people who you interact with on a daily basis, the person in the coffee shop who you always see every single day. You need to be willing to ask someone to support you in your fundraising efforts in order to be able to get the support. You know, in a lot of the work that we do with other organizations and in a lot of conversations that we have with other participants, what we find is that the primary reason people don't give, it's because they aren't asked. It's not because they didn't have money. It's not because they forgot. It's not because of anything other than quite simply they weren't asked. So when you're thinking about all of the people in your life, you don't want to make these decisions for people. You want to give them the opportunity to choose what is important to them and how they want to support you. You also want to make it easy. I have this picture here of leading the horse to water. And it's the same thing. You want to lead your donors directly to the website. You want to lead them directly to the end result, which is making a donation. You want to let them know where the money goes. You want to let them know how they can make a donation, when they need to make a donation by, who and what are they supporting, when is your event. These are the kinds of things that you need to think about when you're considering who you're going to be asking for money. Another thing is get personal. This is a picture of my father. He passed away in 2004, and he is my reason for fundraising. And when I first started out, I kind of skirted around the issue. And then what I realized was I was a lot more successful when I was willing to talk with people about my very personal reason for fundraising. I promise you that if you're someone who doesn't want to talk about it, maybe you are a lung cancer survivor, maybe you are currently going through treatment, maybe this is a family matter that you're just used to not talking much about. I can completely understand and appreciate that, and I would just really encourage you to be willing to give people a little more information about your personal reasons for doing this. A question that you should all be able to answer is, why is this event important to you? And who are you participating for? Is it for yourself? Is it for a loved one? Is it for a friend? There are lots of ways in which we all get started in doing these kinds of things, but being willing to open up the conversation really inspires people to act. I touched on this a little bit of not making assumptions about your donors, and I hope that this image makes you laugh like it makes me laugh. But I think when we consider asking people to donate, almost secondarily to who are we going to ask is, oh, I can't ask that person because they're still in college. I can't ask that person because I know that they don't have a job. I can't ask that person because they already donated to someone else. Those are the thoughts that run through our head, and I'm asking all of you to please put those aside, because the truth is that you never want to make assumptions about who will donate, how much they will donate, or what someone's connection to lung cancer is. You want to be able to give someone the opportunity to make that decision for themselves. Someone will let you know if they can't donate, and I promise you someone will not give away their last dollar. You never know who your top donor will be, which is another thought to keep in mind as you go about fundraising, because the beauty is that your top fundraiser might be the next person who you ask. As I said, you never know how someone has been impacted by a cause, and so being willing to ask them and let them make that decision for themselves is going to be really impactful and important to your fundraising progress. Have a fundraising plan. You know, we all need to know where we're going and how we're going to get there, whether it's a destination trip or a fundraising plan. You need to make sure that you're taking the time to sit down and consider, how are you going to get to your fundraising goal? What is your fundraising goal? Who are you going to ask in person? Who are you going to ask over the phone? Who are you going to send an email to? These are the things that you want to consider as you are putting your plan together. I promise you that you're going to see a lot more success if you take the time to consider what it is that you're going to do to get there. Most importantly, and especially for those of us who may still be feeling a little unsure about fundraising, you need to just get started. I love this picture because I know for myself when I'm about to get into water of any temperature, I'm always a little trepidatious. But most importantly, you just kind of jump in because once you do, you know that you can keep going. And it's a very similar concept with fundraising. For those of us who are a little unsure, there's nothing like getting your first donation, the confidence and excitement that that builds. It's such a great feeling, and I want you all to experience that if you haven't yet. So just go ahead and get started. Here are some fundraising ideas. Put up a poster at work. What's great about this is it gives you the opportunity to spread awareness about the event, and it opens up the door to conversations with other people. And also other people you work with may even want to not only donate, but to join in the event as well. Ask for donations in lieu of birthday gifts. This is also a good option for someone who just isn't comfortable at this point doing some one-on-one asks, which I will say, if I've done my job correctly, hopefully everyone is kind of shifting more away from feeling nervous or uncomfortable with fundraising and realizing that it's possible. Collect your spare change and turn it into a donation. Many of us have some sort of a change jar at home that we collect change in. Bring this to the bank or the grocery store and then put it into your account and make a donation. Host a fundraising event. I have a coworker who does this every year for her participation, and she actually raises all of her money in one day. And what she does is she reaches out to businesses in her community. She gets so many things donated: wine, restaurant gift certificates, gym memberships, haircuts, manicures, pedicures, all sorts of different kinds of accessories. And so she brings people together, and what's great is she's able to talk with people about the event. She's able to talk about what she's doing and why she's doing it. And then she has a little bit of a silent auction with all of these donated goods there for people to be able to choose from. So this is a great option as well. And then the last suggestion here is ask a restaurant to donate a portion of their proceeds. I know in my area 2 restaurants off the top of my head that will donate a portion of their proceeds. I also talked with another participant, and she went to the restaurant that she frequents on a weekly basis and actually asked them if she could provide them with a flyer to put in their bills. She, again, was able to explain to people what she was doing. Many people knew who she was already because she was in her own community. And she provided people with where they could go to make a donation. So this is another good option that you have. Fundraising, the opportunities and the options for what you can do are really endless, and what I like to say is it's only limited by your imagination. I would also want to say that, remember that fundraising is a gift, and I really believe it, not just for the gift that fundraising has brought to my own life in many different ways, but I want you to consider a few things. You're providing people who know and love you with an opportunity to support something that's really important to you. And for those of us who have experienced what it's like to hold someone's hand through a cancer diagnosis, or to talk with a friend after learning that someone that they love has been given a cancer diagnosis, there are very few things in life that make us feel as helpless as not being able to take away diagnosis or to sit in on treatment. We can't do those things. But we can provide people with an opportunity to feel like they're part of something important by making a donation. Kind of along those same lines, if you're giving someone the opportunity to be a part of groundbreaking treatments and research that can actually save someone's life. The work that we're doing is so important. We're providing families with more time with the people that they love, and that's what you're giving people the opportunity to support when they make a donation. And you get to share your story and increase awareness for lung cancer. Many of us on this listening in today, we know that this is a cause that needs exposure and is severely underfunded. One of the gifts that I love about fundraising is that I've found so many times over that when I share my story, it opens up the conversation to learn so much more about the people who I share it with. I have been bowled over and shocked more times than I can count from people who have told me their own connection after I've shared mine, connections that I knew nothing about until I was willing to share my story. And it really deepens the connection that people have to what I'm doing and their desire to want to help. Thank you for your time. Thank you for all of the energy that you'll be putting into fundraising for Free to Breathe, and thank you for helping to turn the vision of doubling lung cancer survival into a reality. I hope that there's a lot that you've been able to take away from today's little session here on fundraising basics and fundraising basics in action. And I hope, more importantly, that you feel inspired today to just go ahead and get started. Thank you.